Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. You have to say the retirement of Vladimir Klitschko has set a few dominoes in motion and triggered a sanctioning body tug of war between the IBF and WBA over who will be Anthony Joshua's next opponent. The situation has been so fluid. It's really hard to put a stake in the ground on this one because as soon as you do, the ground keeps shifting. I think AJ is at real risk of having to drop a belt, which I'll cover off shortly. But first, let's recap the situation really quickly. So Joshua, he holds the WBA, IBF, and the lesser recognized IBO heavyweight belt. He was due to have a rematch with Vladimir Klitschko. He beat Klitschko in late April. So Klitschko has now retired. That happened this week. Generally, boxing fans, well, we just expected that Joshua's IBF mandatory challenger, Kubrat Pulev, would be the next cab off the rank, as Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn has always said. So then, the WBA drops a bombshell, ordering that a fight be made between Anthony Joshua and his WBA mandatory Luis Ortiz. So the background to this was, back in January, and this is what we've since found out, a resolution was sent to the respective parties saying AJ had to face Ortiz within 120 days of the Joshua-Klitschko fight on April 29th. So those 120 days, they are getting close to running out. So now the fight must be made within 30 days or it'll go to a purse bid. And then another development. Subsequently, and this has just come out, the IBF has also ordered the Pulev and Joshua fight be made. I'll just throw something else in here. So you might remember that Ortiz's people came out recently, just a few weeks ago actually, and they said Joshua had to fight Ortiz next. They had the documentation to prove it. I guess they were right. At the time, there were a number of people scoffing at it, but it looks like they're right. And the Ortiz camp said, well, you either take this fight or we'll take you to court. It's a very sticky situation, to say the least. And Eddie Hearn, well, he's a real pro at this sort of stuff, but I'm just not sure he can finesse his way through this one. There is the real possibility and prospect that Joshua might have to drop the WBA belt, as Hearn, he has reiterated AJ's next fight is 100% against Pulev. For me, it does actually beg a question, knowing that a Klitschko rematch was a possibility, and that the IBF would strip the belt if Pulev wasn't next. Why then? Why did the WBA agree to let Joshua and Klitschko fight for that vacant belt in the first place? The WBA has engineered this mess themselves, and surely it would have been evident at the time that this scenario would likely play out and is now playing out. I guess the cynic in me would say that, the reason that they put the belt up was they wanted a high-profile champion and also to obviously collect a big sanctioning fee. We all know these governing bodies, they will crawl over broken glass for $1. So the WBA is now talking big and the Ortiz camp is talking big. They're saying, let's get this fight on. Even if one folds, I'm sure the other will not. And let's face it, the IBF belt, that is the one that Joshua won first. He had that first. It's going to mean much more to him than the WBA belt. So if he ultimately gets stripped, and it's a real possibility on the horizon now, well, he's probably not going to be too cut up by it. I'm sure he'll be a little bit disappointed, but he will still be a champ after all. I did note that Eddie Hearn is now saying the order for AJ for his next series of fights. This is obviously should he keep winning. It's AJ versus Pulev next. Then he's saying Ortiz. And now he's saying Deontay Wilder after that. It does seem that the third name in that order seems to be changing by the week. You might remember, so this week it's Wilder. Last week it was White. And the week before it was Parker. And next week it'll probably be someone else. I guess the key for him is he's just got to keep winning. And some of these things will sort of fall into place or otherwise in the fullness of time. But, and facetiously, I was thinking, you know what's going to happen next. The IBO, the lesser recognized sanctioning body of which Joshua is the heavyweight champion, It would be awesome if it came out now and said he's got 30 days to make a fight against their mandatory. I wasn't even really sure who the IBO mandatory was, or who that would be, or what the process was for the IBO. So I went to their website, had a quick look around. They have something called the top 100 heavyweights. Not exactly clear if that's a mandatory list, but the number one on that, and remember this list does exclude the champs. So the number one on that was Klitschko, uh, obviously not happening, and number two was Povetkin. So imagine that. Imagine if he was ordered to fight Povetkin. That would be crazy. But I digress. Anyway, I'm sure there's plenty of water to go under the bridge on this one. No doubt a few tears will be shed by the end of it. The cynic in me would say that no doubt Luis Ortiz will be left out of the picture again and without a dance partner. Seems to happen a lot to him. What do you think? Interested to get your views on this one. Certainly, it's a bit of a tricky situation, and we'll see if Eddie Hearn can do a Mission Impossible and get out of it, but I'm not so sure. Okay, that's it from me. Hit like and subscribe. I'm out.